Radar Echo Silna sat alone in the dark control room. Her hands moved across the glowing panel, eyes fixed on the long-range scanner. Outside the window, only stars filled the endless black. She was used to silence. Nothing ever came from the Drenari void. The void was a dead zone. No planets, no ships, no life. Just cold space. Her people avoided it. Stories said it was cursed. Old war scars, old ghosts. Silna was young for a bridge officer, but she was sharp. She listened well. She never looked away from her screen. That night something changed. Her screen beeped. A soft sound. Not loud, not urgent. Just a gentle ping. Her heart stopped for a moment. False reading? She whispered. She checked the sensor line. The signal was real. Slow, steady, and moving. It was a ship. She zoomed in. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just any ship. The shape, the engine type, the signal code. It matched the archives. It was human. Silna stared at the symbol blinking on her screen. No, she said to herself. This can't be right. Humans were gone. They were supposed to be extinct. The last reports were from over 1,000 cycles ago. They had vanished during the Scourge Wars. No one ever found their home world again. And yet here it was, a human signal, real, active. She tapped the emergency button. The captain's voice came through. Report. Commander, I have a contact. Unknown ship. Approaching slow from the Drenari void. Type? Human, sir. The line went silent. Repeat that. Human signal. Code matches Class Omega warships. It's sending a ping. A pause. Then laughter. Silna, you've been watching too many ghost files. Clear your scanner and reset. It's a sensor echo. But she didn't reset. Instead, she copied the data to a personal drive. She ran the signal through 3 different systems. It always came back the same. Then something even stranger happened. The ship sent a message. One word. Hello. Silna leaned back in her chair, heart racing. No encryption. Just a simple human greeting, sent in galactic common. She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the signal. The ship was close now. Just a few thousand units from the outer edge. It wasn't fast. It moved like it was wounded. She checked its hull. Old metal. Rusted. Ancient design. But it was still alive. How? She whispered. She opened a hidden channel and sent a short message to the ship. Who are you? A pause. Then another word came. Back observer. Her fingers shook. What did that mean? She looked at the ship's name. It was faded, unreadable. But one thing was clear. This ship was not a ghost. It was watching, waiting. And it had just shown itself after 1,000 years of silence. Silna turned off the lights in the control room. Outside the window, nothing had changed. But in her chest, something had shifted. Fear, curiosity, and something deeper. Wonder. She whispered to herself, they were real. They're still out there. And then, without asking for permission, she locked the ship's coordinates and prepared a stealth pod. She had to see it for herself, before command erased the signal, before the galaxy could bury the truth again. Humans were not extinct, and someone had just said hello. The voice from the silent Silna's heart pounded as the stealth pod slipped quietly into the Drenari void. She sat inside the small vessel, alone, with only the blinking light of the ancient human ship growing larger on her screen. Her main ship, the Caraxus, had no idea she was gone. She disabled the trackers, faked a system reboot, and launched the pod without alert. It was a dangerous move. If she got caught, she could be stripped of her rank, or worse. But none of that mattered now. She had to know the truth. As she drifted closer, the stars around her seemed colder, darker. Even time felt slower. The void had a strange presence, like it was watching. And out there, floating alone in that black sea, was the ship no one should have seen. It looked broken. Its hull was cracked, covered in old battle scars. One engine pod was missing, and the other flickered dimly like it might shut down at any second. A faded human symbol was barely visible along the side, but it wasn't dead. The lights inside the ship glowed softly. Someone was in there. Her pod systems warned her not to go further. The human ship gave off strong magnetic pulses, too strong for something so old. Still, she pressed forward. As she neared, her comlink crackled. A voice. It was male. Clear. Calm. You are not supposed to be here. Silna of the Yarinai. She froze. How did it know her name? She hadn't transmitted anything. She scanned the ship again. Still only one life form. One human. She touched the speaker. Her mouth went dry. How do you know who I am? A pause. Then, we have always known. His voice carried no threat, but there was something strange in it. Something old. Who are you? She asked. Observer, he said again. Observer of what? Of you. Of them. Of everything that came after. Her fingers trembled. This wasn't a ghost. This was a real human, alive. You're supposed to be extinct. He gave a soft laugh. No, Silna. We simply stepped aside. A moment of silence passed between them. Her pod hovered near the hull now, just outside the docking ring. Why? She asked. He didn't answer. Instead, the lights along the docking ring lit up, forming a slow pulsing pattern. An invitation. Her training screamed at her not to enter. But something deeper, something ancient and curious inside her, pulled her forward. She aligned the pod with the docking clamps. The magnetic seals clicked. The door opened, air hissed. Warm, breathable. She stepped inside. The corridor was dim. Old panels lined the walls, glowing with dull blue lights. The silence inside was thick, like the ship hadn't heard footsteps in centuries. Then she saw him. He stood at the far end of the hall. Tall, pale, with short dark hair and eyes that looked far too calm. He wore no armor, no weapons, just a long dark coat that shimmered faintly under the ship's lights. Welcome aboard, he said gently. You're real, Silna whispered. Yes. She looked around. How is this ship still working? It's ancient. He turned and began walking. We built things to last. We had to. When you plan to disappear, you make sure your silence echoes forever. She followed him, cautious. What happened to the humans? She asked. He stopped at a viewing window. Beyond it, stars stretched across the darkness. We fought a war. We could not win, he said, so we chose not to finish it. Instead, we became watchers. Watching what? You. All of you. The galaxy. The choices made in our absence. She felt a chill. Then, you've seen everything? Yes. She looked at him carefully. Why now? Why reveal yourself now? He turned toward her, eyes serious. Because you found us too soon, and now the others will come. Silna frowned. Others? Your fleet. They'll see your pod. They'll track your steps. And they won't understand what they're looking at. She stepped back. They'll think I've been captured. Yes, he said quietly. And they will fire first. A cold weight dropped in her stomach. I have to stop them. You can try, he said. But the galaxy has forgotten what humans were. And some truths are harder to unlearn than lies. The ship trembled slightly as her pod's emergency beacon blinked red. They had found her. And they were coming. Memories they erased. The ship shook again. Soft at first, but Silna felt it under her boots. A pulse through the metal, like the heartbeat of something ancient just beginning to wake. She turned to the human, her voice sharp. They're close, she said. My fleet will be here any moment. The man, still calm, nodded. Then we don't have much time, come with me. He moved with quiet purpose, leading her through the inner halls of the ship. The corridors were curved and silent, lined with symbols she couldn't read. Some half-burned, some glowing softly. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. "What is this place?" she asked, unable to stop looking at the old tech surrounding her. "This was once a long-range observation vessel," he said, "built after the wars, built to remain hidden, to watch, to remember." They reached a chamber with a wide, dome-shaped ceiling. The center held a strange device, half organic, half metal, pulsing slowly with blue light. "This is the archive," he said. She stepped closer. The air around it was thick, like old smoke and static mixed together. "Your history?" she asked. "No," he said softly. "Your history. Everything the galaxy forgot, or was made to forget." He touched the device. A beam of light rose from the core, spreading across the room like a living memory. Silna gasped as shapes formed in the air, cities burning, alien ships screaming across skies, human warriors standing in silent rows. "This is real?" "Yes," he said. "What?" "Your people were never told." She saw humans fighting not just with weapons but with ideas, machines that could build life, destroy stars, or cure entire species. "You were gods," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, we were desperate. Our brilliance was born from fear. When the scourge came, we fought it with everything we had. We won, but at great cost. The images changed." She now saw alien leaders standing with humans. Then suddenly betrayal, explosions, treaties breaking. "They turned on you," she said. "They feared us," he replied. "And when they saw what we were capable of, they decided to rewrite the truth. They buried us. But why?" He looked at her, his eyes hollow with old sadness. "Because they knew if we ever returned, their rule would end." Silna turned away from the images. Her hands trembled. Everything she had been taught, about the Great Purge, about how the humans fell in their arrogance, about how peace came afterward, was all a lie. She faced him. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you came alone. Because you didn't look away. And because soon, someone will have to decide what to do with the truth." The images faded. The silence returned. A small alarm beeped once. They both turned. "They've locked onto us," she said. "I need to send a message to stop them." "They won't believe you," he said. "Not yet?" She frowned. "Then what do we do?" He walked toward a side panel and opened a drawer. Inside was a sleek, thin band. He handed it to her. "This is a memory link. Put it on." "What does it do?" "It shows you everything. Not just images, but feelings. The fear, the choices, the pain. What it felt like to be human during the end." She hesitated, but then she looked at the red light flashing above the door. Her people were coming. And they were coming to kill. She put the band on. A pulse shot through her skull. She gasped, stumbled, and then her vision blurred. Suddenly, she stood on a dead planet, fire everywhere, skies dark with ash. She saw a woman holding a child in one arm and a rifle in the other, blood on her face. She saw cities turned into hospitals, entire oceans drained to create cure vapor. She felt the grief of the last president giving the final order. "Let us become myths." She felt what it was like to walk away from the stars. She screamed. And then, silence. She was back in the chamber. Her knees hit the floor, her face wet with tears. He knelt beside her. "This," he said, "is what they feared. Not our weapons, not our ships, but our will." She couldn't speak. She could barely breathe. And outside the ship, the engines of war were drawing near. Hunted by her own, the silence inside the ship was thick after the memory link ended. Silna knelt on the cold floor, still shaking. Her heart was racing, not from fear, but from understanding. It was too much, too real, too human. Everything she had believed about her people's history, about the humans being violent, unstable, extinct, had crumbled in an instant. They had not died out. They had chosen to disappear. The man stood beside her, watching silently. He had not moved since she collapsed, Not a word, not a touch. He just waited, as if he had done this before. Maybe he had. I saw them, Silna whispered. I felt it. All of it. He nodded slowly. They weren't monsters, she said, her voice shaking. They were scared. They sacrificed everything to protect the galaxy, and we erased them. You didn't, the man replied. Your ancestors did. Their fear became your foundation. Silna stood, still unsteady. The weight of history, of truth, pressed down on her shoulders. Then the ship shook again. Harder this time. Red lights blinked along the walls. They've found us, the man said calmly. Silna rushed to the nearest panel. They think I've been taken hostage. They'll attack without warning. The man turned to a screen. It showed the alien fleet, over 20 ships, positioning around the void like claws around prey. They've sent your high commander, he said. Commander Drixel, she breathed. He won't wait. He'll fire first. She ran to the comm station. Let me send a message, they'll listen to me. He didn't move to stop her. She opened a channel. Static filled the line. This is Officer Silna of the Caraxus. Repeat, this is Silna. Do not engage. I am alive. I am unharmed. There was a pause. Then her commander's voice came through, cold and commanding. Silna, you are under arrest for abandoning your post and engaging with a hostile entity. Return immediately or be considered compromised. She pressed the comm again. You don't understand. The ship is human. It's not hostile. It holds data. Proof. We were lied to. Humans are not extinct. They chose to disappear. I saw it. I felt. You are not in your right mind, Drixel's voice cut in. Prepare for boarding. If you resist, you will be neutralized. The signal ended. She stared at the blank screen, breathing hard. He won't listen, she said. He can't, the man replied. Truth threatens power, and your commander is too deep in the lie to let it go. Then what do we do? He looked up. We survive. He pressed a command on the nearby panel. Outside, the stars shifted. And then suddenly, lights began appearing in the blackness, one after another. Hundreds. Silna's mouth fell open. Dozens of ships began to uncloak. Ancient, beautiful and terrifying. Their shapes were unlike anything she had seen. Silent, floating guardians. What are they? Watchers, he said. Human vessels left in the void. They've slept for centuries. Now they wake. Will they attack? Only if they must. The fleet outside hesitated. The alien warships now faced something unknown. Their sensors must have been screaming warnings. Silna turned to him. We need to show them you're not a threat. They already decided what we are. Now they must decide what they will become. I have to go, she said. I have to face them, explain it, show them what I saw. He reached toward a panel and handed her a small device. This holds the full memory archive, he said. If you speak with truth, this will protect you more than any weapon. She took it, heart pounding. If I die, she whispered, then they'll never know. He looked at her. Then don't die. She returned to the docking bay. Her stealth pod was still there, powered down but intact. As she climbed inside, she looked back one last time. The man stood in the shadows, watching her. You never told me your name, she said. Names are for the living, he answered. But if you must call me something, call me Rain. The pod doors closed. Her ship detached, turning toward her fleet, toward danger. And behind her, in the dark, the watchers waited. The ghost fleet awakens. The stealth pod shook as it exited the human vessel's docking ring. Silna's hands gripped the controls tightly. Her pulse pounded in her ears, and every breath felt too loud in the cramped silence. The pod drifted forward, into the black sea of stars, and straight toward her own fleet. They were waiting. 2 war frigates had taken position on either side of the void's edge. Beyond them, the great carrier Zariak loomed like a floating city, its weapons fully charged. Fighter drones hovered in ready stance, forming a net of steel and suspicion. A voice crackled over the comm. This is Commander Drixel. Power down. Your vessel immediately and prepare to be boarded. Silna ignored the command. She opened her personal channel, pushed the button for emergency broadcast, and spoke. "This is Officer Silna. The ship in the void is not hostile. It is human, yes, but it holds truth, not threat. I carry proof of what we were never told. Commander, I beg you, do not fire." There was no reply. On the screen she watched as the fleet began to adjust. Positions. They were forming an attack pattern. They weren't here to investigate. They were here to erase what scared them. Then it happened. Without a single warning shot, one of the smaller frigates launched a plasma torpedo toward the human ship. Silna screamed into the mic, "No! Stand down!" But her words meant nothing, now, and that's when the void answered back. The torpedo never reached its target. Halfway through space, it simply stopped. The energy fizzled out mid-flight, dissolving like smoke in water. A glowing ripple spread across the blackness, and then dozens of shapes appeared. Silna gasped. The ghost fleet had awakened. Ships larger than anything in modern design flickered into visibility, rising like shadows from beneath the stars. Their surfaces were black as midnight, their hulls covered in forgotten languages and ancient scars. No lights, no energy pulses, just the hum of impossible presence. They made no sound. They made no move. They only watched. The alien fleet fell into silence. Panic ran through the comms as officers scrambled to understand what they were seeing. "What are these vessels?" someone shouted. "We're detecting thousands of them. Where did they come from? Why didn't our systems detect cloaking?" "Commander," Drixel's voice came through again, harder now. "All ships hold position. Do not fire. Not until I say." Silna used the moment of silence to transmit the memory core. She uploaded it directly to the fleet's shared channel. "This is everything," she said. "Every lie we were told, every truth we buried. Watch it, please watch it." Some officers did. She could hear their shock, their silence. Others refused. They shut it down. "This is enemy propaganda," Drixel barked. "They are manipulating your minds. Do not let sympathy cloud judgment. We were trained to destroy threats. Nothing more." But the ghost fleet still did not move. Rayan's voice echoed inside her pod. He had reopened the secure link. "They're afraid," he said. "But fear can be guided. Or it can be poisoned," Silna replied. "If they fire again, will your ships respond?" "Not unless I call them," he said. "We are watchers, not warriors." She stared at the ghost fleet. So still. So silent. And then, Drixel made his decision. Target the human vessel. Full power. Fire on my command. Silna acted on instinct. She veered her pod straight between her fleet and the human ship. Her screens lit up with warnings. "Stand down, Silna," Drixel shouted. "You're disobeying direct orders." "Then court-martial me later," she snapped. "But you're not killing truth today." For a few heartbeats, everything stood still. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Drixel broke. Fire. But the ghost fleet moved faster. They didn't shoot back. They didn't attack. They simply lit up blinding arcs of white light wrapped around each vessel, and then, without touching a single alien ship, the weapons across the entire fleet powered down. Engines failed. Lights died. Communications were scrambled. One by one, the warships of her people went dark, frozen in place. Helpless. And the ghost fleet watched, not in anger, not in violence, but in warning. Silna opened her mic again, voice calm now. "Do you understand now, Commander? They could have destroyed us in seconds. They didn't. Because they're not our enemies. They're our mirror, our future, if we choose wrong." Drixel didn't reply. Maybe he couldn't. His ship was frozen like all the others. Only Silna's pod remained active, and the ghost fleet waited in silence. The wrath of silence, the battlefield was dead quiet. Every alien ship hung motionless in the void. The lights on their hulls had dimmed. Their engines were silent. Their weapons, once aimed and locked, now floated cold and lifeless like corpses drifting in space. And still the ghost fleet did not move. Silna watched through the pod window, stunned. They hadn't fired a single shot. Not one missile. Not one laser beam. Yet her fleet had been defeated, not with force, but with silence. The kind of silence that spoke of power far beyond comprehension. Her screen blinked. One transmission, one signal still active. Rayan? His voice came through again, soft but unshakable. This was your second test. Silna swallowed. Second? The first was when your people erased us from history, he said. The second was when you saw the truth, and your leaders still chose fear. She turned her pod to face the massive human ship once more. It no longer looked ancient to her. It looked eternal. What happens now? She asked. Now, he said. We offer them one last chance to listen. Behind her, the void pulsed. The ghost ships slowly opened their comm arrays, forming a linked network across light years. And then, a single message echoed across every channel in the system. A voice, human, strong, genderless, spoke just one sentence. We waited. We watched. We warned. It was heard not just by her fleet but by stations across the nearby systems. Merchant ships, colony relays, even deep space probes. The galaxy listened. Commander Drixel, still locked in silence, was now just one voice among billions who had heard the words. Some would dismiss it, others would panic, but enough would wonder. And wonder was all the humans ever needed. Inside the pod, Silna trembled. Not in fear. She had moved beyond that. What she felt now was weight, responsibility, because she was the only one who had seen it all. The memories, the history, the truth buried beneath lies, and she knew something that others didn't. The wrath of humanity was not in their weapons. It was in their silence. The silence that waited through centuries of betrayal. The silence that let their enemies rewrite the past. The silence that allowed myths to grow. And when they finally chose to break that silence, they didn't come to conquer. They came to remind. They didn't want war, Silna said aloud. They wanted a witness. Her pod received one last message from Rayan. No voice this time, just a sentence typed in old galactic script. Truth does not need an army. It only needs someone brave enough to speak it. Then the screen went black. Behind her, the ghost fleet began to disappear once more. One by one, they flickered out of view, melting back into the void as if they had never been there. Her pod systems came fully online again. Her fleet's ships began to stir, lights returning, engines rebooting. But something had changed. Commander Drixel's voice returned, but it no longer sounded certain. Officer Silna, return to the Caraxis. You are ordered to report directly to the High Council, and bring the archive with you. She did not answer right away. Instead, she stared out at the empty stars where the Watchers had vanished and whispered to herself, they didn't attack us. They reminded us what we forgot, what we feared most, that the humans never left. They simply waited for the right moment to speak. Then she turned her pod toward home. She had a message to deliver, a war to stop, a truth to tell. The message to the galaxy, from the story, she froze when the radar showed a human ship. They were supposed to be extinct. The journey back to the homeworld was long, too long. Silna sat alone in her ship's cabin as stars streaked past the window. The memory archive, now encoded safely within her core tablet, lay on the console in front of her. It felt heavier than any weapon she had ever carried. It wasn't just data, it was proof, and proof was dangerous in a galaxy built on lies. When she finally arrived at the High Council's orbital station, security met her at the dock. Uniformed, guards surrounded her, eyes hard, weapons charged, but no one dared touch her. Not yet. They knew what she carried. They feared it. Inside the great hearing chamber, the 12 counselors of the galactic core sat in a half-circle, robes dark, expressions unreadable. They ruled over dozens of species, hundreds of systems, and now they faced something even they couldn't explain. The return of the humans. Silna stood before them, head high. You left without permission. You disobeyed orders. You stole classified data, one counselor said. And I found the truth, she replied. They said nothing. She placed the archive on the pedestal in front of them. The lights dimmed. A single pulse lit the room. Then the memories played. First the wars, unfiltered, brutal, raw. Then the humans, fighting not for conquest, but survival. Then the silence, chosen, not forced. Some counselors flinched. Others leaned forward, eyes wide. When the memory of the ghost fleet appeared, gasps filled the room, and finally the voice played. We waited. We watched. We warned. When it ended, the chamber stayed silent for a long time. Then one counselor, Elder Jean, spoke. This information, it will cause panic, collapse. Entire histories will need to be rewritten. Silna answered calmly. Then rewrite them. What if the people are not ready? Another asked. They deserve to choose what they believe, she said. Not have it chosen for them. The council whispered among themselves. They were afraid, not of the humans, but of losing control. Finally, the High Chancellor rose. She was old, older than most living beings. Her voice was slow but sharp. And what do the humans want from us now? She asked. Silna's answer came, easily. Nothing. They didn't demand anything, they didn't attack, they didn't stay. Then why reveal themselves? Silna's eyes narrowed. Because they saw where we were heading, and they gave us a choice. The room was silent again, and then, unexpectedly, the station's outer broadcast channel blinked to life. An automated satellite had picked up a signal, one that had just appeared across the outer edge of known space. A massive, human satellite, unknown model, unknown origin, but unmistakably ancient. It carried only one function, a broadcast. The message began repeating across all known frequencies, translated instantly into every major language. To those who inherit the stars, we are not your gods, we are not your demons, we are your reflection. We are your warning. Do not look for us, do not seek to destroy or worship, simply remember what we became so you do not become the same. Truth is not power, it is the price of peace. Billions heard it, from the rich centers of galactic trade to the poorest mining colonies, from high command offices to underground resistance bunkers, and all across the stars, one name, long thought dead, rose again from the ashes of history. Human, the word once used to frighten children, now spoken with awe. Some celebrated, some feared, but no one ignored it. Silna returned to her ship with no medal, no promotion, no speech. She didn't need one. She had done what few ever dared. She had listened, and in doing so, she had helped an entire galaxy remember the one thing it had tried so hard to forget, that truth, no matter how buried, always finds its way to the surface. As her ship drifted once more into the stars, she played the message again in her head. We are your reflection. She smiled, because she now understood. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had become the mirror, and now the galaxy had to face what it saw.